Welcome back from the break. Let's move into our big stories today. And we want to understand what exactly led to the crash of the Z9 military helicopter and the controversy surrounding, the breaching of the search and rescue protocols of this country. Remember, we're being told that in 2008, this protocol was, established. But did we really follow that particular one? We'll be hearing from a retired, Air Force personnel who really understands the operations of this aircraft and what have you. But we'll start with our lead data analyst here, Isaac Ofieje, giving us a 3D illustration of exactly what we do know about where the incident happened. You know that it's been exactly a week when this happened. Kofi J is joining us in studio for us to do this. Kofi, let's understand, what we do know we've been able to capture about where this happened.
Well, Kojo, before we even do this, I think that it's important for us to issue a disclaimer that what we're about to do is not to feed into any form of speculative analysis. What we are here to do is to visualize what we know based on the data we have gathered ourselves, based on what our reporter, the coordinates our reporter who was on the grounds, reported live, gave us. Also, expert opinions like Captain Wing Command Retired Sogbojo also gave to us in most of the interviews.
Of course, we'll be speaking to
absolutely,
him. Yeah.
And then also Colonel Retired Festus Abuaji himself and other aviation experts have spoken about the issue. And our job as journalists is to explain some of these complex issues for you to possibly understand and visualize all the things that I've said so far, what we know about where the aircraft took off, where it was expected to land, at what point did it crash, what time was it expected to get to the place. Based on this data is what is informing what I'm about to do on the smart wall, and that is not to feed into any form of speculative analysis. So we go to the smart wall straightforward. So what we decided to do is to use this data that we've gathered to possibly help you understand what went on that day. So we understand the Z9 helicopter belonging to the Ghana Air Force, registration number GHF631, left this place in the Greater Accra region. So I'm taking you to the Air Force base where the aircraft actually took off. This is the Air Force base that the Z9 took off on its way to Obuasi. And based on the data we have gathered, we understand, and what we know is that the helicopter was expected to land somewhere, around the Lenkley Sports Stadium in Obuasi. So I'm taking you to the Lenkley Sports Stadium. This is the Lenkley Sports Stadium in Obuasi where the helicopter was expected to land. And we understand the estimated time is around 50 minutes, according to the data that we have gathered from experts. Is that if you look at the distance between the Air Force base and that area, that's about what we have done the calculation using the Google Earth Pro that gives you some form of estimation. That entire journey is about 180 kilometers. 180 kilometers from the Air Force base. And what we also do know is that based on the coordinates that we got, the live direction and location that we got from our reporter who was on the ground, gives us the exact point or the exact area where the crash actually happened, and that gives us that form of ability to estimate how far the pilot had actually gone into that journey, how many of the journey has he actually covered. We understand that he was almost on about 93% of the journey heading to Obuasi, looking at it relative to where the crash point that we have so far. And so if you do the math, we are not saying that's the exact speed of the aircraft, but based on the distance expected to be covered, and we know that as the crow flies, if you use that as an estimation, we understand that the speed of the helicopter, based on the data we've gathered, the distance and the expected time of crash, listening to eyewitness and experts who have spoken on the issue, the speed was between 204 kilometers per hour and somewhere around 234 kilometers per hour to possibly get to the Lenkley Sports stadium. This is where the aircraft was expected to land. But we all know what happened on that day where the unfortunate incident happened. So let me take you to the crash point. So what we have done is to map out the crash point using the coordinate that we got from our reporter, Bright Quick, who was on the ground. This was the exact location that he was, and it gives an indication that the crash point was, some distance ahead. So that's why we've actually mapped this entire area in yellow for you to understand that if you are using the ICAO principle, which gives you a certain radius to work with, we have actually even gone beyond that radius to extend the location. So just look at the terrain of the area, the crash point that we are seeing so far. Let me give you a 3D analysis again for you to understand. This is a place, right? And you can see Sycaman, which I'll show you very soon. But if you see any line in red, it shows you the mountain range. It means that this is the mountain range between the Air Force Base in Accra and Obuasi in this direction. So if you want to get to Obuasi, definitely you have to either get over this mountain before you get to Obuasi. Because this is a range. It's not one place. Let's look at the mountain range proper for you to understand the whole point. So you see the range over here. And let me illustrate for you. So you see the mountain stretching from this point going to this direction. Very, very long. And from the crash point, what you see is Sycaman. That became that central point in terms of the town that was used where the whole thing happened. They landed here. I mean, all those who came to, who actually visited the crash point had to come to Sycaman before walking to the crash point.
Between Sycaman and the crash point, no community. All of that vast area is our farmland.
That's why it explains why it took so long, possibly for the armed forces to get to the crash point. So just look at the distance between Sycaman and the crash point. And just like you said, between the crash point and Sycaman, you see vast area, all of these areas being forest zones, right? Whether it's semi-deciduous, we don't know, but this is what we know. What we know is that the distance between the crash point and Sycaman very, very far, based on the estimation that we have. If you take a look at it again, you see, this is a crash point, and this is Sycaman. Definitely tells you that, well, we can talk about let's say about, when we did the calculation, it was around 3.2 kilometers. And so it will take you, if you are walking, that's about, let's say, 2 hours to possibly get to this place. But if you are flying, then it will be relatively lower if you are looking at the time of travel. Let's also look at the Anglo Gold Stadium or Park. Why is this important? Because we understand that the helicopter was expected to land somewhere around the Lenkley Sports Stadium. And this was another alternative place for it to land in case it had to find another place, because there are so many parks in Obuasi that they could have landed before. So you can see the white line. It shows you that the AGA's park is ahead of the Lenkley Sports Stadium where it was expected to land. So you see the line even between the AGA stadium and the Lenkley. Also, what we understand is that if you look at the crash point proper, Kojo, let's analyze the mountain we are seeing here, right? For us to understand the magnitude of this obstacle. We don't know what happened. Whether the plane was flying so low and crashed into the mountain, that's one scenario. Another scenario could be that it was already above it. Got some mechanical fault, dropped. Nobody knows what really happened. But what we know is that it crashed around this area. That is the fact we know. But other fact, what caused it, whether it crashed, whether it actually exploded midair, nobody actually knows. We are waiting for that sort of investigation to actually happen. But what we know is that this is the area that it happened. And we've been trying to look at the height of the area
so
to understand.
Just hold on there for us. We'll come back to you. Let's bring in Wing Commander.
Commander Patrick Nelson Sogojo. He's retired Ghana Air Force officer. And sir, thank you for joining us on the AM show this morning. We're just trying to understand the details of where the helicopter moved from, where they were supposed to land, and where they crashed. We do not know, like our lead data and research analyst was saying, we do not know exactly what happened.
Yep.
But that's why I want to talk to you. You've been giving the research team some information. We want to understand from your perspective, what do you think really went down here?
Well, good morning to your cherished listeners who are viewing you now. But to begin with, I've been looking at the assessment being given to you by your colleague. But in flying, before you take off, you look at the topography and plan your flight. And minimum, you must be a separation from the highest point. So there's no way this helicopter, from what I'm saying, would have flown on a treetop to go and hit a tree. Minimum, there will be 1,000 feet separation of the highest object, whether on top of the mountain or low. No pilot to fly, unless specifically the helicopter will send either to go and draw something, it has to descend and fly on treetop. Other than that, in navigation, he wouldn't have gone that low and fly into a tree. I hope I've explained this to you. So much as it's shown that the place was heavy forested, we don't think the pilot, at his own peril, will be flying on treetop. And in Ghana, I've said it, I don't have any tree which is 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet. And since we didn't see any blast in the air until the crash happened, they also rule out the possibility of the aircraft being blasted by an object before it hit ground. It's a fact that it ran to the tree, but we must know what happened for the airplane to lose sight and come down to hit a tree. That's the main thing that we have to find out. And I think that can be only gotten from the black box when it's decoded. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. But has it been confirmed that it hit a tree, or you're looking at all the information coming in to say that it possibly could have hit a tree?
Whatever happened, the aircraft came down. It came down into a heavy forested area. Whether it hit a tree first or maybe engine failure, anything, he lost height and he dropped into the forest.
Okay.
Commander, you're saying that simulation we saw circulating on social media, it painted a picture that there's a tree so high that the helicopter sort of hit it before crashing. That is just wrong. It cannot be a possibility.
It's wrong.
Okay.
No, I will fly tree top and go and run into a tree. You do your navigation, and I'm saying there's a separation height. With this same map you're using, you have to fly minimum 1,000 feet above the highest point.
Okay. And you're saying that there could have been some probable cause.
He was going to say something.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Unless a suicidal pilot, but in all my life, I haven't seen that many suicidal pilots who take off and do about 80% of the journey and decide to go and push the aircraft into a tree. And he's not alone. There are two pilots in cockpit, and they have the same console. Say maybe one wants to behave, the other one can take it over. But we're talking about split seconds. It's not hours for a helicopter without power to drop onto trees. Gravitational force alone will need to come back in seconds. It's not like he had all the time. It's possible maybe he had some problem and was trying to elevate the helicopter. It wasn't going up. He will fall. And when you fall into the forest area, you just go down. The foliage will cover you. I hope you're getting me.
Yes, please. We got that bit. So now that we know that there's no tree high enough to have caused this crash,
No,
it's not possible too that there was a blast, because we didn't see anything like that in the air. So what does that leave us? Sorry?
So if there were to be a blast,
the
wreckage would only have been found on one place.
Okay.
Pattern. Okay? Mm-hmm. The only thing we can do is that Ghanaians should be patient. The black box will be taken to manufacturer. They will open and decode it. and the information was sent to the operator. And even this sort of information is the confidential information. Whether the ministry decides to make it public, yes. But it's not 2-3 day affair. If you remember recently, there was a crash between a jetliner and a military helicopter in the Sticks, in the Hudson. Even in America, it took some time before the details came out. So let's have patience, let the investigate body of inquiry, the opening of the black box, come down, and then we can deduce what happened.
How much time do you think this would take, approximately?
No idea. It's going to China and then to come back. I have no idea. I just gave an example of what happened in the United States. Even in the United States, where they have radars and all things all there, it took some time for them to get the results out. So I'm saying we should be patient. It's not just opening your diary and the information in there you just read. The manufacturer has to open it. And I think the black box maybe by now has arrived in China for them to start working on it. So we need patience.
And if you are looking at the distance between Obuasi and the Air Force Base, in such a flight, do you think that you need extra fuel? Would there be fuel on board? And how much are we looking at?
Every pilot flying, first you check your fuel. They will not give you a flight when you don't have enough fuel. You won't take off half fuel. These are things, the prerogative of the pilot. You do your standard checks, internal checks, you check your fuel, everything before you take off. Because helicopter can land anywhere, but provided it's a big space enough for it to land. If there's no space for it to land and it's flying over a forested area, in anything, it can hang in there, has to come down. And this will not be the first time that maybe choppers have gone over that route.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the first time. We've been flying VIPs and other military over several years. But I must also say that the safety record of Ghana Air Force is pretty high, very, very high. We are respected. But this is the second fatal helicopter crash. One happened at Tiwa about 20 plus years ago, the same situation. But also, most probably understand, no pilot wants to go and die, or intentionally go and crash and kill himself and kill people. So let us be patient and wait for the black box.
Yeah, I think the question Kofi wanted to find out was that earlier we were told that it could have been possible that this helicopter would be carrying extra fuel.
Yes.
So we wanted to find out, is it possible that the helicopter could be carrying extra fuel to aid it on its return journey?
If it was carrying, what was it going to store it? Where was it going to store the extra fuel? There's no space for that.
Okay.
I'm saying that when pilots are flying, you make sure you have enough fuel for your endurance and even emergency if you have to divert. If you come into Accra, for example, and Accra airport is closed, the nearest is Lomé, and it's mandatory that you should have alternate airfield, and you have enough fuel to get there.
Now, you were given, procedure, how in such a circumstance, when VIP tax, you get a VIP tax, what goes into the selection of the pilot, the aircraft, and all of that?
I think I did that. First of all, the Air Force will not put unqualified pilots to perform a task. We'll have airplanes, we'll have the pilots, and when the task comes, they look at or they select a pilot who is qualified to take that mission, and he flies it.
There have been issues.
And this particular squadron leader was qualified, had gone to the United States and done several upgrading courses. Your capability was far above what happened. But accidents are accidents.
This accident, some have speculated that it was caused by bad weather. And we've seen some other forced landing of some helicopters around since this incident. Could bad weather really be a contributing factor to this tragedy?
In the Air Force or everywhere, we have grades of pilots. If he was not qualified to fly in a bad weather, he wouldn't fly. will have licenses, maybe let's say A, B, C, D, and he's all green. That means he can fly in all weather. And I don't think the bad weather was so bad. I mean, you're talking about an aircraft landing in a school. There's a space for it to go and land. But you fly over a forested area, where are you going to land? It may be the village had a park, and you're high to attempt to go and land there. That's called a forced landing. Okay? But over the forest, there's nowhere you're going to land except on trees.
Is the landing site, and Kofi, maybe you can help us out here if you can show us that. Is the landing site, the crash site, is it en route to where their final destination was?
In fact, per the analysis we have done, looking at the coordinates we have so far, we understand that if you compare where the crash happened to Obuasi, the distance about 13 kilometers, and looking at how long it took for the plane to crash, that would have taken the pilot at least, and we are using a range here, at least about 4 minutes to get to the Lenkley Sports Stadium. We also understand that if you, relative to the crash point, if you look at the towns or villages before the crash point, we had a place like Diapompo, Sikaman itself, there was Brofuedu and other towns that the pilot could have landed. But looking at this visualization, he had actually gone past all of these towns before possibly crashing.
So, Commander, you're saying that only the black box can tell us for sure why the pilot or why the helicopter went past all these possible landing sites to go and crash in this forest area. Is that what you're saying? That we can't theorize on what could have possibly caused that route instead of what we've seen?
First of all, a pilot is flying to Boise. He's not flying to Brofuedu or anywhere else. He's en route. He didn't divert. If this crash had happened, a village maybe 50 kilometers to 20, then what caused him to go there? There's a route he's flying on. We're flying on a route. We don't divert anywhere. You know, it just happened that this incident happened on top of the forest. It's not that the pilot was searching for somewhere to land. It was due to land in Lenkley. If they didn't move Lenkley to another stadium, it's a question of 1/10 of a second. So he didn't go off his track. And something happened for the aircraft to lose sight, to come and hit something on the ground. And I've said that we don't have any trees which are more than 2,000-3,000 feet in Ghana here. So something must have happened. This is what we should concentrate. And our concentration cannot yield any results unless the black box is open, because both of the pilots died.
But from your experience, as you say, what could have happened such that it would just come down at that point where it was?
This is the big question. That is the big question. What happened for it to have come down to Solo and maybe went into the woods? That is the question. He fly a constant height until he gets to his destination, then he will hover down to land. What caused helicopter to come below its route, not the route, the altitude, to come and hit the trees in the forest? And it can be answered, assuming one pilot survived or a passenger can give us a verbal or what happened. But this happens and in seconds. It's not like a car being driven for a long period. Planes go up in the air and they are suspended in the air by the rotor power or the fixed wing propellers. When you lose power, you come down. There's nothing you can do about it.
Okay.
So that's a possible explanation, loss of power. Okay, so
maybe loss of power for it to lose its height, because it can't be suspended in the air. And if there were to be, like we're saying, a school park somewhere, I don't think the pilot would have loved to die. He would have tried to get down and land the airplane.
Wow.
You know?
Well, Commander, we want to also take a look at the response to the crash. Obviously, the site was contaminated because the emergency response protocol in place was not activated. How did you reconcile? Say again?
President, who said it wasn't activated?
Well, and did you saying from what we saw versus the protocol that exists? The Ghana Police Service was supposed to be the first people on site to cordon off the area, but that didn't happen. The army was supposed to...
that we have, just a minute, are we still have policemen scattered or soldiers scattered all over the country that instantly they can get there? No.
Well, so I'm doing a comparison between what the protocol says and what we saw. And I want you to reconcile, that for us. What we saw were people trying to, support rescue or salvage the situation. Nobody really understands why the people poured onto that scene the way they did and contaminated the site. But we do have a protocol in place on who are the first respondents, what should be done after. So comparing what we saw versus what was supposed to be done, please help us understand or reconcile the two.
As soon as something like that happens, the Air Force should push the button for search and rescue to begin. Search and rescue, assuming that this air crash took place on Savannah area or anything without woods, the plane would have been located in a very good time. But when you go over trees, you fall down, and even the foliage covers the aircraft. Now, it fell beyond, people should understand there are villages in our forest. It fell down very close to a village, and they were the first people to go there. The 4th Battalion, which is the next point of call, is coming from Kumasi and some security also from Obuasi. And they said it took them about 2 hours to hack their way into the forest to get there. So there was nothing they could have done. We had a similar situation that Obuasi years ago, when we located the airplane after 4 or 5 days. We had to bring the 3rd engineers to blast the trees and cut them all down before a helicopter could have gone in. Helicopters can't drop paratroopers in there. They will hang on the trees. They can't do anything. It's the ground forces who will get there and clear. It took them some time. We don't have soldier stations around the villages or the police. It's a difficult situation.
Commander, what I hear you say is that, Kofi, sorry, just for clarity, what I hear you say, Commander, is that it is impossible for the police to be the first respondent on the crash site and cordon off the place like the protocol that exists stipulates.
Well, they've come out to tell us that it took them about 2 hours to cut through the forest to get there. We don't have police station in the village.
Yeah, but even when they arrived on site, I didn't see, I don't know if you have, but I didn't see any attempts to secure...
Have a video to cover all what happened? No, we got bits of it.
Okay.
And I think the regional minister even come out the time they got there and what they did. We saw specks of actions, and in uncontrollable situation like a village, they have no idea what has befallen them. They go around it. When you talk about contamination, what type of contamination? What type of contamination were the villagers going to do? Putting the dead bodies in the cocoa sack. That's a different issue altogether. Okay? But it took time, almost 2 hours to hack through the forest. It's not something that you're working about like on the beach or savannah where the plane is sitting there. They crashed through a forest. And the undergrowth is thick.
Kofi.
So they did their best.
That's my question.
You answered your question, okay.
But when Commander, does it mean that, the search and rescue protocol might not necessarily be same if it happens in terrains like it did? So that when we are analyzing, we can put it in context.
Answered the question. If I'm saying if you had crashed into a savannah area, okay, no woods and so forth, or even into water, it's easy to locate. And this is not the first time maybe it's happened. In the deep forest, a plane falls. That's it. It can't be sitting on top of a tree because of the weight, the speed, the impact. So assessing the place was difficult. But it's not that the Air Force didn't push the button for search and rescue. You need ground troops to go there. And the nearest man ground troops can get is from 4th Battalion in Kumasi. And there may be a police station at Obuasi area. But they are saying it took them about 2 hours to get to the spot.
When the Tiwa one happened, you said it was also in the forest. Didn't that give us any lesson for us to plan for such operations when it happens in forest?
Every situation is different.
Okay.
Every situation is different. Etua forest maybe is not as heavily forested like what we saw. Every situation is peculiar to each situation. You can't take A and say we should have done this. There are protocols of search and rescue. And this is not the first time the Air Force plane had come down. Since the inception in 1959. And every crash has been well examined, resourced, and then it's publicized. So it's not a question that this happened 2 years ago, therefore we should use the same method, to go and do this one. Every situation is different.
Okay. Do we know what could cause the rotor to lose power?
I have no idea.
Okay.
No one can say it unless you open the black box.
Okay.
Because nobody survived.
I was just asking that maybe based on experience, you could know what can cause the rotor to lose power. That's it.
But the aircraft helicopter stays in there when power is given to the rotor. The rotor is the one who flies to give the lift. Mm. And for it to come down, then the rotor may be malfunctioned. I'm ruling the possibility of the pilot flying into trees. If it can't happen, what made the airplane to lose power and then come down? The rotor must have failed. But I don't want to be conclusive. What caused the rotor to fail? I don't conclusive. The black box has not been opened yet.
Okay.
Well, there's actually some comparative analysis to be done here. Let's go to 2020, where a similar incident happened to a Z9 helicopter, GHF 630. It had a problem with its rotor and it had to do an emergency landing. And you are also citing that it could be that we had this same aircraft, a similar aircraft also had a rotor problem. When it happened in 2020, do you document some of these things to know what happened to the rotor for them to do that sort of emergency landing? In this case, what could have been the situation?
Let me just ask you a question. Are all car accidents the same?
But these are similar models, Z9, Z9 helicopters.
All Mercedes-Benz's crashes are all the same?
They have similar features.
Please, for heaven's sake, let us get, before a plane flies, all checks are done on it by the technicians. The pilots go there, they examine the aircraft externally and go into it, and before they even start the engine, they do internal checks. They start the engine, they do checks. They lift up, they check that all the parameters in the aircraft are okay. Okay, before he will go. If it's not, he will just say no. The only exceptions are maybe I'm flying from Kumasi to Accra in the daytime, and my landing lights are not working. It's not too important. You can override it. But when specifically there's a problem in the aircraft, the pilot will not fly it.
Let's look at the same 2020.
I'm saying that when you're asking, this is not the first time that we had an aircraft down. And I'm saying accidents are different. We don't know. You haven't been told what happened to the Tiwa one. So you cannot say maybe the same thing happened to this one.
My reference is the 2020 Z9 helicopter that did an emergency landing due to a rotor malfunctioning. In that same incident, you see the same protocol being followed. The pilot did the checks.
What protocol are you doing it? What protocol are you talking about?
No, you said that before a pilot takes off, that's all the protocols.
Don't let's go there. Don't let's go. I say the pilots don't know what they should do. I'm telling you, each accident is peculiar to each situation. In the Tiwa, for example, it was a night, okay? And the pilots are trained to avert these situations. So I say, don't compare accident 1 to 2. They're all different. And don't let's, please, for heaven's sake, bring in theoretical issues. We are trained and properly trained and to hard in bed. But planes fall down all the time, not only in Ghana. It's not so peculiar. When emergency comes, the pilot will do the best to save himself and his passengers. He doesn't want to die. So when you bring a Tiwa and this, please, there are two different scenarios.
Okay. So going forward, once we know that there are some terrains that are difficult for the protocol to work, Should this
Which
serve as
protocols are you guys talking about? Which protocols?
the search and rescue protocol? And I'm asking.
Well, it won't change from one to one. The protocol is the same thing as followed. The recent one, I've told you that the ground force who had to go there had to be activated from Kumasi because you don't have soldiers or policemen scattered around the whole area that immediately they can go and cordon and do this. It's impossible.
Okay.
I mean, while I appreciate your arguments, Commander, and actually you've been busting some myths around this and the speculation circulating around, I want to find out, there have been calls for more and newer models of helicopters for Ghana, for the, Ghana Armed Forces and all. Is it possible that some of these helicopters are just too old to be functioning at this point? Do you see wisdom in the calls that people make for newer, more?
The fly is not a newer, older one. These planes were brought in 2015. 10 years ago, they are pretty new. Okay? And besides, the technicians who work on the aircraft and the pilot will know the serviceability, airworthiness of the plane. Airplanes are not like cars. We check the engines by flight time. After every type of hours, this and this should be checked. And all these things were checked before the flight started. So it's not a question of age. Engines have age. The aircraft is the fuselage have their ages. If you take a Boeing 707, or let's take the presidential jet, which is now in France, it didn't mean that the Air Force didn't know what to do. There are checks, but there are some checks that the aircraft should go to the manufacturer. For example, they came and said there was corrosion in the engine and corrosion in the tank. Can you see that with your visual eyes? You can't. So all airplanes are different. Flying hours is what determines the value and airworthiness of the plane. And if you're too airworthy, the Air Force wouldn't use it to fly.
Are you saying that it's never a situation or it is not possible for an aircraft to be too old to function?
And I've given you two scenarios. The plane where you sit has got its airworthiness time, okay? And the engines have. Some of the planes, they can swap the engine in maybe 2 hours to fly. So these are two things to look at an airplane. The fuselage called the airplane. And then the engine is another time. Then there are some planes that if they are brand new and they don't fly. There are components will be changed because of time frame. It doesn't have to be in the air. So the airworthiness of the aircraft was paramount. Other than that, the pilot wouldn't have taken off. It's not the only helicopter we have, the Z. There are a couple of them there. We have the Air Mice and so forth. So if they didn't have a good helicopter, they would have changed another one. So being old and new is completely out of the question.
Do we need more helicopters?
Well, if you that's on, they will use. Currently, I don't know their numbers they have. But every country spends money on its budget. If the government deems that they should buy new helicopters, yes. But we have planes which have been grounded at the Air Force bases because of age or problem. But the paramount issue is that a human being going to fly that aircraft will not take it on when there's a problem. Certainly, there's no question about that he will take off when there's a problem on the aircraft.
All right. Well, thank you. Gentlemen, unless you have any other angle to explore with Commander, we want to let him go.
No.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wing Commander Sogbojo, yeah, we appreciate your time on the AM show. So there you have it. He said that it is only the black box, gentlemen, that can tell us exactly what happened. But we can estimate, we can speculate, but let's just wait for the black box.
I think the closest, we cannot get to is that there could be a power loss to the rotor.
Yes.
From the explanation he's given.
That we all agree.
Yeah.
And that will not be new because I was citing the 2020 incident, which was current President Mahama and his entourage.
Yeah, okay.
Had the rotor malfunctioning and had to do an emergency landing somewhere in Tamale. It was the same Z9 class, right? So that's why I asked him that question. But even beyond the issue of crash, what we saw in our mapping is also very worrying. We understand that they were en route to Obuasi to launch the responsible cooperative mining. But you see here, just some 3.4 kilometers away from the crash point, what you see is a whole place. I mean,
so even along the route itself, they're going to fly.
Sites,
yeah,
right?
they were going to fly over.
Exactly, Galamsey site. And we were able to actually check this parameter.
Okay.
And we are talking about more than 200 football fields.
More than 200.
200 football fields. This entire area being degraded as a result of Galamsey activities. You can see pockets of Galamsey activities. It's just about 3 or 3.2 kilometers away from the crash point. So whilst we are talking about what may have caused the flight to come down, another big issue has to do with the issue of Galamsey. And in fact, this can be a whole town, right? And it's sitting right just about 3.4 kilometers away from the crash point. And that tells you the magnitude of degradation we are doing to our forests and land as a result of Galamsey activities.
So if they had crossed to their destination, they would have seen that beneath them, this was what was happening.
Possibly have seen many.
Yeah, and in their minds, it would have been that this is why they're going to launch the responsible community mining scheme. Quite interesting.
Gentlemen, stay with me. I want to invite our audience into the conversation. We want to open the phone lines. You have just about 15 minutes or so to go. So call us and share your thoughts with us on everything concerning this Z9 helicopter crash and how we've dealt with it. It's a week since we lost those 8 soldiers, patriots, and Friday we'll be burying the remaining 6. So call us. The phone lines will be on your screens any moment from now, and you can join the conversation. Kofi, you know what's interesting is
Tell me, Susie.
that you can clearly see that the forest has been destroyed with what you just showed us.
Let me go
You can
back
get
to
back
the Galamsey,
illegal mining. I just want to stick to illegal mining because this is no longer Galamsey. They're not gathering and selling anything. They're just destroying us. These are ecological terrorists, and we have to start calling them by their right name. What's interesting is that I think the people in that community, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's a community, right?
Yes.
Where you see PIC,
Exactly.
it's a community.
Yeah.
And then after the yellow line towards the right side, if you can pause, the right side is the forest, correct?
Yes.
Which means that the people are mining so close to the forest, and one line even shows that they are entering the forest
In
itself.
fact, they've already degraded a portion of the forest. So this side is a forest. This is also a forest. So you see...
so they are in the middle of the forest.
They're already in the forest, right? And we have done the calculation. That's a big area that is being destroyed. And in fact, that's an unfortunate situation.
Anyway, we have Hamza on the line.
Yeah, I have Hamza. Hamza, good morning. Thank you for calling.
Good morning.
Let's hear you out.
Sweetie. Good morning, Kojo, and your research analyst. I the Kofi AJ, right?
Yes, Kofi.
Oh, okay. Kofi, thank you for the good work. Kofi, does it mean the yellow signs on the map indicate Galamsey, like illegal mining?
Yep.
That's the perimeter. That's the perimeter that we are looking at.
This is very sad. Well, our condolences to our gallant men who died. May their soul rest in perfect peace. We are sad. We are all sad. But how for do? Life goes on. I remember last week, Tuesday, I watched the video of Murtala Mohammed saying that as a Muslim, he has never wake up a day without thinking about death. And then the next day, Wednesday, he died. We say rest in peace to all of them. May God be pleased with them. They serve their country well. And in fact, we are still mourning.
Right. Hamza, thank you for calling, and we appreciate that. So you can also call us, whether or not you just want to share your messages of condolences or not. Call us 0302-211-691. The question is whether or not this has caught the attention of the authorities. Do we know anything about whether or not those who are in charge, so many task forces we have, Blue Water Guards, Anti-Galamsey, NIMOS, and the rest, have this been anything they've said? Have they said anything on this yet?
Not on this particular zone, but I mean, there are so many forest areas.
But I'm sure they are aware.
So many
What do
forest
you mean,
areas
Kojo? When
that-
you say they are aware?
Yeah, oh yes, because
They know the widespread nature of
this is within an assembly, and every assembly knows where there is galamsey in their assemblies, because these are places where assembly members are, and the assembly members know what's happening in their jurisdictions. So I'm sure they know.
So what are we doing about
In fact, the
it?
Galamsey site is just about 1.5 kilometers away from the closest or the nearby
walking
town.
distance.
Yeah, you could see it. I think that is what is there.
You
In
also have-
that little blue there.
Exactly.
Check it there.
Jamsu,
Yeah.
Kraba also there. I mean, just look at the area. Very, very big and wide there.
We have another caller.
Emmanuel, calling us from Accra. What's on your mind?
Yes, so my question is, I wanted to know the difference between the launch of these ministers and the one Akufo government also did, the responsible community mining, and the one the ministers were going to launch. What are the difference?
One is community, one is cooperative.
One
Well, I
is,
actually had a conversation with Pakwesi Shandoff. You know, the tragic thing was I was arranging to meet with
Mutala.
Charlie. Yes, so Pakwesi Shandoff mentioned that the difference is with the cooperative mining, they are going to engage the chiefs, everyone in the community, and bring them aboard, make them responsible for more like keeping the community in check, in terms of no one can just wake up and go and mine in a place without the chiefs, the people being in agreement with it. And the government will be working closely with them to give them some returns on the areas in their communities that, you know, the people have licenses to mine. When they mine, they get some returns on that. But because this has not been launched yet, let's just leave the explanation to when they are able to actually launch this proper. And then they'll give us the details, Ima. Thank you for calling. Or do you have any other thing you want to share?
oh, it's fine. It's fine. Maybe when I get a better explanation.
Yeah,
on
so
the
let's wait
reason
and
why.
see how the ministry
Okay.
So this
Let's zoom
gives a
in.
better perspective.
Let's zoom
Yeah.
in and understand the level of degradation. Just look at it. Ponds and degraded lands. Let me stretch.
It
Way to
still
know
breaks
that.
my heart when I see this, but I think some people have developed shock absorbers now, and this no longer moves them, you know. Otherwise, why are we still sitting aloof and twiddling our thumbs and waiting for
In fact, you
God
can
to come
actually
and
see
fix Galamsey
path,
for us?
right? Where, I mean, roads. Yeah.
You see, the problem, you had, was it Suleiman Abrahima who said that what happened was that, is it transportation? The people who were there in the past have moved and new guys have entered. And so sometimes, if you don't have the political will, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Forrest.
Yeah.
We have another caller.
Effect.
Exactly.
Hi, Christian, how are you?
I'm good, Siti. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Talk to me.
Yeah, my main question is that it's been 7 days after this crash. And at least the military, they must be, if at least a press conference can do. The work of, we getting information is, too much.
Christian, I don't know if you can speak up. Did you hear him?
No, he says the
Can't speak
military
up.
is something.
Yeah, I'm saying that it's been 7 days after the crash, and at least I think the Ghana forces a press conference could have been do something to, give us the general view of all the thing that was happening.
Well, thank you, Christian. I think you're saying it's been 7 days. You want to hear from the Ghana Armed Forces. Otherwise, then your line is just not clear. We couldn't pick up on that. But I think this is the time where we can extend grace to all the stakeholders involved, right?
Yeah.
In their own time, they will be able to give us a statement. We have Samuel online. Samuel, what about you? What do you have to say? Samuel? You're live on the AM show and don't listen to your TV set. Speak to me directly on your phone.
Yes. I just wanted to suggest a solution to this Galamsey menace.
Okay.
I'm Stephen Doe. I think the government has to pay attention on solving the Galamsey menace because, one, if the people are monitored by these military guys who comes in and destroy the machines and those things, if they stop and then they come to monitor, do a serious monitoring, and the people have the free will and the liberty to work, They will not be destroying the land and polluting the waters. There will not be any fear on the people to do bad things. So the military has to be deployed, can monitor those things. They should not come and destroy anything. When the people feel that they are free to do the work, they will perform it and do it better, and they will not destroy any water or pollute any water or any land, because there will be guidance and there will be that supervision from the military guys. So the government has to think that way instead of deploying police, soldiers, and those guys to harass and burn all those machines. It won't work. They can do it 1,000 and million years. It won't work. And when they come to supervise, when the military guys are around and they are supervising, the people doing the galamsey will have the confidence to do it right. That is my suggestion.
Thank you for calling, Christian. And we have, I think, 2 minutes. So if you want to be our next caller, call now. Mohammed, thank you for calling. Have your say.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think the guy who just left has taken some of the sales out of my ring about the military being given that at least space to exercise some kind of strength. I don't know, some kind of something that can get people to know or fear, have a fear in them in going into the forest. Because I from my lean experience, I believe that the forest itself should belong to the military. The military must know the in and out in all the corners of our forest. And so I will always say, since some of them have even been perished, and looking at this map as to where the Galamsey sites are and where the helicopter was passing, Sweetie, I can see we are all being cautious as to where to place the blame. But we have been fighting Galamsey not today, and I think it is a part and a root cause of all this kind of unfortunate bad incidents in such a bad omen in our system today. You see, so I think that is what I would have to say. The military must be allowed to exercise some things for me. These guys in the forest, they are not ready to leave at any time. That the military too somehow have become political, and then they go in there. And unfortunately, all of these things. But members of them are dying, so they must wake up and tell us something. Put something in our house. Yeah.
Thank you for calling. In as much as we've had such ideas being populated around, I just think we should be patient. They shouldn't kill.
Dr. Tony says send 3 battalions.
I don't think we are not ready for that.
But the more Kofi zooms into the thing, look, the community. That's why people say all of us. It's about all of us, because look, these guys access these mining sites from these communities. The roads are all there. They are part of it.
Yeah.
Yet,
the community itself is.
I mean, anyway.
Just external people coming in, but the community members are
doing it. They are benefiting.
Well,
anyway.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure, and thank you for the analysis and bringing the hidden things from the data to us. That's our lead data and research analyst, Isaac Kofi AJ.
Yeah.
And of course...
But, Sudi, just before I beg of you, there's this guy who's watching us from Osiejo. He says I should. So, Kenneth Annan, U.S. cement seller in Osiejo New Market. Benyamo ahe na nyamlira Kenneth Annan, cement seller Osiejo New Market in Ahanta West. Good morning to you, brother. Yeah.
Okay. And that's our show for this morning, the Wednesday edition. And remember that we are still mourning our departed 8. On Friday at 8 a.m., the funeral state burial will be happening. And tomorrow we'll know for sure which roads will be closed, because Shamima, who speaks for the presidency, has said that some roads will be closed. You want to stay with us on the Joy News channel, because coming up next is Joy News Desk with Mamiesi Nyamiche Thompson. My name is Sweetie Abochi. And that is Samuel Kojo Brace. He's not paying attention, so bye.